Good to see you all. So this is the last week on this particular project, on the urban scenes project, sort of buildings and urban scenes. So I'll just do a very quick recap. What we've covered so far, or what I've covered. And the first week I was looking at perspective, so two-point perspective. So the idea that, you know, if you're drawing a building or a box or something like that, the sides and the top and the bottom, these lines will converge at a vanishing point, and the same on this side. So that was that one. Then the week after that, we talked a little bit about drawing street scenes and using pens and either line and wash or line and just line and maybe grey tones, that sort of thing. So that's that one. And then last week, just encouraging you to try out charcoals. Somebody requested charcoal, so I did a little bit on charcoals. I thought this week I'll just carry on with the kind of street scene idea. So there are quite a few paintings in of my own. So these are the sort of things that I do. This is the kind of work I like to do. Most of what I do is done on site. So something like this is probably about 3 or 4 hours work. And the way I go about it is pretty much like this. I'll perhaps get a few lines in to start with, get the big shapes, and then quite a lot of the drawing is done with paintbrushes as I go. So that's how it's all working, building up in shapes and layers. This is acrylics, the paint I've got here. I tend to paint with oil. Quite a few people like acrylics, I do a little bit in acrylics. With my oils, I usually do a lot of the drawing out just with a brush. So this, I've actually used the pastel pencils because these are easier to remove. Acrylics, once it dries, it's quite hard to get rid of the marks, whereas oils, I can just wipe out the oils as I go. So for that reason, I've used the pastel pencils, but actually I find that just clean oil paint is nice if you're using oils to draw with. And the way I work this is I'll just kind of get shapes everywhere, build up the shapes, and then that will be the first layer. So it's almost like what they call the blocking stage. And then I would then put details over the top. So I'll do a little bit on this building here. If you've got a colour that's anything like that, I'm just trying that. Right, so I'll mix a terracotta-ish colour. Actually, the windows, they've got these bits of stonework around them, so just perhaps try and get those in first with a slightly yellowy colour. So a little bit of what I'm using here, I call it yellow ochre, and then a little bit of brown with it. So pop a little bit of that around the edges. And same here. This particular window is quite, I have some at the top and the bottom, and then the middle sections I'll paint in dark and then paint the other window frames over the top of that. Change to a different brush, so I'll mix a dark with the dark I've got here. I've got some blue and some brown, I'll get a nice dark, a little bit of red. Now actually this bit is quite a bit darker than the top floor. So using a nice squarish brush, get nice kind of sharp edges with that. Same here. Go further up, it's starting to reflect in a little bit of light, so I'll pop the dark in to start with and then perhaps a little bit of some lighter tones. It's a little bit bluer and lighter as I go further up, so I'll add a little bit of that to mix. To give the impression of a few of the window panes catching a little bit of the light, and same here. Let's get a little bit of terracotta colour around. So I've got something like a cadmium red, a little bit burnt sienna, tiny bit of blue, and a little bit of yellow. Tiny bit more blue, should do. And then just a little bit white, just lighten that a tiny bit. And with that I can work into these areas. That's it. Where you've got individual bits of stonework, I can go to a slightly smaller brush and just cut in those almost like stone shapes like that, and then go back to the big brush. And this kind of approach I quite enjoy, where the drawing happens with the brushes as much as with pencils, and because mediums like acrylics and oils, if I did loads and loads of detailed lines, I would very quickly cover those up. So I usually leave some of the drawing for when it comes to this painted stage. Like that. And yeah, I'll need to carry that on over there. Just pop a little bit down here. And then perhaps a few darks, shadows around here. And what I'm interested in is really sort of giving an impression of the architectural details. So that when you look at them from a distance, they read as bits of decorative architecture, but it's not too over detailed. So something like that, and then there's a shadow under there. But the advantage of acrylics, though, with this sort of subject, is it dries really quickly, so you can very quickly build a layer. Sometimes I find when I'm painting with oils, which although it's a medium I really love, sometimes you can end up leaning on the painting and then picking up paint or not being able to get marks to go down because the other layer isn't dry yet. Just a suggestion of there's a little bit of decorative. It's a bit too dark. Stuff going on there. And then the last bit I'll do is just to put some more window frames back in there, which I can either do that with a long thin brush, or I could just use a nice square sharp brush. So I'll do a little bit of both. So this is a fairly new flat brush, and I can almost sort of print the marks on like that. So that's one approach. Do a little bit here. And then the other approach, as I say, is just use something like a rigger or a fine sable brush, and you can do that freehand, or just sometimes I get a ruler and just run it along the ruler. Perhaps a little bit of light and vary that a tiny bit here and there. Shadow there. There. But hopefully that will give an impression of the building without spelling everything out.
It's amazing how just those little details make the whole thing come together.
Yeah, it starts to read then, doesn't it? And the sort of things I look for sort of slight variations in the windows. Like that one's really bright, those other two are a bit darker. Things like the window panes at the top are lighter, they're reflecting a bit of sky colour, grey sky, whereas these are, they're not getting any light. It's just looking for those little variations of light and dark and just homing in on those, and it starts to give it a little bit of character there. So, anyway, that's quite.
How much water do you add in?
Not much at all.